Welcome, everybody. Welcome to episode number 97 of Fraternity Foodie. I am your host, Mike Ialon, CEO of Greek University. We call these episodes Fraternity Foodie because there is nothing like great food to bring people together. I've been looking forward to this interview for the last couple of weeks because we've been going through so much between the election process, coronavirus, natural disasters, economic pressures. I felt it was definitely time to talk about things like addiction and depression. And so I'm so excited for this. Using dynamism and authenticity, Archie Messersmith-Bunting, or the Feelings Guy, trademark, champions mental health awareness worldwide at corporations and universities. Archie challenges people to rethink complicated and emotional topics like depression, suicide, alcohol, and drug addiction. Through his company, ArchieCares LLC, Archie aims to reframe the narrative surrounding mental illness and addiction by facilitating honest and vulnerable conversations. Here's the truth. The truth is that usually Archie and I are so busy running around speaking at these conferences that we have absolutely no time to sit down and just talk and share feelings. But I'm so grateful for Archie because he's very intentional about setting up these opportunities for all of us to build the human bond. He's got the 5-on-5 monthly challenge that he introduced and so many other opportunities just to build on that human bond. So I really appreciate that about Archie. Archie, welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I feel like we should just stop because it's going to be downhill after that intro. That was amazing. Listen, when you reached out, I was so excited. And listen, I'm giving y'all a casual look today. I did take a breathe right strip off for you. But other than that, we're going cash today. I'm just showing up as I am, but I am so excited.
You look wonderful, Archie. I am so excited to have you on the show. Can't wait to get to know you a little bit better. I'm just grateful for this time. I think this just forces us all to slow down for a minute and just get to know everybody around us a little bit better. So I certainly appreciate that. Let's go into your background a little bit. I know you chose Samford University for your undergraduate experience. So what made you choose Sanford?
Oh, child, you jumping off with the honest cliff. We jumping off the honest cliff at the beginning. Here we go. Okay, so I'm a good Southern boy. I grew up in the South, in the real South. I live in Virginia right now, but I grew up in the real South of Alabama. And so it is factual that I wanted to get a school that had a good vocal program. I was a voice major in college, so I was a singer, and I had aspirations to do that professionally. And what I enjoyed about Sanford was that they really focused on vocal technique. And I didn't really realize how much I was going to pay off until I got to New York and people were just screaming all around me. And I'm like, well, I'm going to sing correctly and I'm going to sing longer than you. So that is one reason I went to Sanford. The second reason I went to Sanford, so I'm gay and I grew up in the church, and that's a very gay in the South, in the church is very tough. So, I mean, if I'm going to be really honest with you, I went there thinking that if one place can de-gay me, it'll be Sanford. Like I can go, I mean, I did all the walks to the cross and like, okay, I'm gonna lay this at the cross because I don't want to be gay anymore. Well, that doesn't work because I am actually gay. Like I have red hair, I'm gay. So so I thought it was going to work. It didn't work because there's no working around that. But that is why I chose Sanford.
Got it. All right, that's good to know. And talk to us a little bit about what fraternity life was like for you as an undergraduate.
Yeah, so I had a really, I had a very different fraternity experience because Sig Epsilon, I'm a member of Sigma Phi Epsilon, and they came on campus when I was a freshman. So truth be told, I went to school knowing that I was going to be a Pi Cap. This is going to be my life. And then there was this opportunity to start an organization from the ground up, and I found that interesting. I had no idea how much work it was going to be, dear Lord. Looking back, so much of who I am came from Sig Ep and really building something from the very beginning. I never was hazed ever. This was after the Balanced Man program, so I have no idea lies. I know what it looks like in a chapter, but personally, I have no idea what it looks like. That's not the experience that I had. It was a great one. It was very different than most people's fraternity experience, but it's mine and I'm claiming it, and I had a good time.
Yeah. See, it's another successful founding father story. I've interviewed so many people in fraternity and sorority life, and the founders of their chapters just go on to do amazing things. I think there's something about that struggle of building something from the ground up that gives you tools that most people who have a fraternity or sorority experience just don't get.
Yeah, I mean, and you know this because,
Yeah.
but when you found a chapter, the humans in that room, like, okay, you're the president and you're the this, and I mean, you are from day one. If you don't want to be in a leadership position, you might not should join a brand new chapter because I'm advising the chapter. There's a new SIGAP chapter at UVA, and it's pretty small right now. And I'm like, okay, every one of you's on exec. Let's go, let's go, and let's do this thing.
That's awesome. See, I'm jealous. That's one thing I'll never be able to be as a founding father. So for anybody who's listening, whoever gets that opportunity, jump at it because it's a great leadership experience. There's no question. All right, so let's talk about SIGAP. You work for SIGAP for the HQ a little over 7 years in multiple roles. I was wondering, what did you learn during this process of developing a sexual assault prevention curriculum and then deploying that to over 200 chapters of the fraternity? What was that like?
Ooh, that was exhausting just hearing you ask the question. It was a lot. So I landed at SIGAP headquarters right after the first Dear Colleague letter was written. Mm-hmm. So really, I mean, we've both been in higher ed for a while.
Sure.
Even till that point, when you talked about, sexual assault or Title IX, mm-hmm. we thought that was like sports. It wasn't never just sports, but I mean, that's in the higher ed world, right? Title IX lived in the athletics department. Mm-hmm. So I landed at SIGAP right then. And we knew we needed to do something and there wasn't anything out there. So we're like, oh, we'll just create it. Now, since it's long past, I will tell you, I did not know the first thing about how to like create and roll out stuff. And I was like, yeah, I can do it. At a nonprofit, at a fraternity headquarters, you're like, who's the most able to do it? You do it. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about beta testing and how to get in front of chapters and making sure you're going to a chapter in Mississippi and then a chapter in New York and then a chapter in California. Because everyone is different. But I think what I really, really learned was that I think this is really when in my head I began to realize that the way that fraternity men are going to learn is just to put it out there very plainly. Like we don't need lots of cool acronyms or just very basic. This is what consent is. Yes or no? Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Obviously, I think there's I'm very real with fraternity men, and I tell them it's a PG-13 presentation. Like we're gonna have some real conversations, but we don't need the gunslinging, jokes. Like just here's the material, and it landed, and then it kept landing, and I'm really grateful to have been a part of that process, and it's still being taught today. Our Got Consent program is still being taught in the fraternity.
I love that. Yeah, back then, I mean, there was really nothing. We were just kind of creating it on the fly. This is way before the Me Too movement and all of this other things. Yes. I mean, for me as a fraternity exec, I just knew it was a problem, and I knew that I needed to do something about it. I mean, that was all there really was. And so, I mean, it's the truth, And so I actually went to the Sexual Assault Center, which is located in Nashville, Tennessee. They had been around for maybe 20, 25 years already, working with youth, working with adults. And I just went there to learn. And I said, you know what? I said, with this team of experienced people that have been doing it for 25 years, I think we can build something for the undergraduates. And it was really along the same lines as what you were describing. Here it is, no jokes or any gunslinging, just here's the information. Let's build some consent culture here on this campus. Let's talk about bystander intervention. Here are the tools, period, end of story. I mean, it was just that simple, and it did land. So I'm happy for that.
Yeah. I also, that's the first time I ever, like a large portion of the curriculum is scenario based. Mm-hmm. So I created a scenario that what I would imagine to be a typical Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. Mm-hmm. And eventually we did a photo shoot. We did not start with this. I just found some stock photos, but eventually we did a photo shoot of 2 students, and you followed them along the night. And along the night, I would stop and say, per your policies, has a potential assault been committed? Mm-hmm. And it was really interesting to see the men kind of flip in their heads and be like, oh, I could have stopped that then.
Right.
And they really dug in, even at our, and I say this word on purpose, our fratiest chapters, because we all have them.
Sure.
They really dug in and they got it. And I mean, But then what I learned was when I'm trying to teach someone else to lead this, well, I didn't have my wedding ring on. Y'all, I'm married, but I forgot to put it on. When I'm trying to teach somebody else to teach it, you have to know what you're doing. You can't just stand in front of the room. If you're going to take a different approach to a program and not just like, here's a slide, here's a slide, here's a slide, you got to know your stuff.
Right.
Because when they start asking you questions, you got to know answers. So that's when I feel like we really began to partner with institutions, because I would call and I would say, hey, I'm coming to your campus. What do you mean? What's the policy? What do you want me to teach them? How can I help you? And that helped too.
That's perfect. That's really good insight. Now, you worked for the North American Interfraternity Conference. You were the VP of Campus Operations and Health and Safety, and you spent a whole bunch of time developing and marketing an education plan for the new alcohol and drug guidelines that were rolled out. Now, we know the NIC is a really, really big tent. Inside this tent, you have all different size organizations in it, and plenty of opinions about where the industry should be going. I know this because as an insider, I was sitting in on those meetings and I see it happening, right? So I guess my question is, what are your thoughts about alcohol and drug use within fraternities today? And in your opinion, do you think that we're seeing safety improvements from your perspective over the years?
Ooh, that's a question. Let's jump off the honest cliff again.
Yeah.
So here's what I'll say first. I loved my time with the NIC. I loved working for Judd Horace and with the other campus support team, Helen and Will. I mean, just a boomer, great team there. Only one of those people remains. Judd and Will, everything else looks very different. But I feel like where we began to go in the world of health and safety was spot on, because we were taking a harm reduction approach. Listen, this is my opinion, not anybody else's. I believe that as long as there is alcohol sold and there are hormones, college students are going to drink. Like that is there's no science to prove that, but that is my belief.
Sure.
So I believe, what'd you say?
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. But, and so I really believe that we have this mantra in higher ed of like, meet students where they are, everywhere but drugs and alcohol. That applies to everything else. We're not going to meet them in a real place. So I feel like that the alcohol and drug policies that came out were very, very practical. And also just like, hey, we're not saying stop drinking, because I mean, in my life that did not work, but also I'm just not sure how practical that is. So instead, let's have a conversation about removing the most harmful substance. All the science is clear that 15% ABV liquor, that is the stuff they're pounding. Can you please just pound White Claw, or like Natty Light, please? Because you're never going to get as drunk as you do in the liquors. So I really do believe that the campuses and the organizations that have adopted some version of that, I do believe we're seeing humans make smarter choices. Now, the pandemic kind of threw all of that data out the window. I don't know where we're going to land after, the vaccine comes and whatnot, but I really can't get behind anything that's not a harm reduction approach, because I just don't think there's any science there that supports like just teaching abstinence. If we're talking about alcohol, like just no drinking, I just, where's the science?
Yeah, you and I are definitely aligned in that way. I think we have to be realistic. I think, alcohol is definitely a part of college campuses and the culture that's there. So how do we do that safely? How do we give the students the tools that they need to make sure that they do it safely, that they look after one another, and that they see the warning signs, right? Creating that environment where people are scanning and looking around their house or wherever this social event is happening and say, okay, I see something. This is where I need to engage and find, this person, a way home safely, or get them medical attention, or whatever it is that I'm seeing, just giving them the tools to know what to do in that scenario. So I think you're spot on there. Now, you champion mental health awareness at corporations and universities all over the world, mostly by being honest and vulnerable, which I love. So talk to us about your own struggles with addiction and clinical depression, and how does that help you engage your audience?
Yeah. So I am a recovering drug addict, a recovering actually IV drug user. And I also probably for a decade struggled with addiction and my mental illness. So I have clinical depression. And for me, this is for Archie, I choose to take medicine to sort of help, stabilize my struggles with mental illness a little bit. And also, for today, I don't stick a needle in my arm, and that's a win. But I really discovered that, even after piecing together periods of sobriety, that I still wasn't waking up happy. Like it just wasn't what I thought that like stopped, because my belief, but I also think the science shows it, addiction. And once you start sticking a needle in your arm, you're way out there. But if you're using drugs and alcohol to cover up a problem, we need to talk about the problem. We need to talk about the hurt inside. It's not about the drug or the alcohol. It's about this thing you're covering up.
Yes.
I believe that to be pretty true, but that's also what was true for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally realized that what was missing for me was listening to those feelings I have. I'm a big feeling guy, obviously the feelings guy. And I believe that there's a lot there. And I believe that we are trained as a society to lie about how we feel daily, multiple times a day. So as someone who tried to take his own life, why would we ever think that someone is going to ask for help if they have no practice at all? I mean, how many times a day do we say, "How you doing, man? Good. How are you?" That's like, nothing just happened. Nothing happened. Mm-hmm. So it's like asking, that would be like me asking my son to get on a motorcycle and start riding. Like he can barely do like the thing without the pedals. So like there's no practice, and we are trained by society. So I firmly believe that if we would stop with the BS of like, oh, I'm fine, I'm okay, and actually talk about how we feel, then so I think of suicide as like a kind of a 0 to 10 spectrum. Like by the time you get to 10, that's going to be like you called it the exact right moment, because my hurt is so great then. Like over here on number 4, like that's when it's like, hey, Michael, how are you feeling today? Like I've noticed you've been a lot off. Like, can we talk about your feelings? Can we talk about feelings? So I really just am on like a singular mission to reframe the way we all think about, like just because I have depression and you can't see it, just because I don't have a cast on my arm doesn't mean that I'm not hurting. Right. So ask me how I'm feeling, not like, hey, what's up, man? What does that even mean? Like this guy, like, what does that mean? So, and I think what's exciting to me is that because I am, this is my theory, because I'm so open about my life and so honest about the things in my life, that people give me a chance and listen. And then what I say makes sense. And they're like, oh, that makes sense. We should really stop. We should actually talk about how we feel. Mm-hmm. And so I'm on a mission. And I'm not going to stop.
I stand with you. I love your mission, and I'm a huge fan. What can I say? Well, let's talk about that, right? So right now, it's no secret, we're all under a lot of stress. You, me, and everybody who's listening to this podcast. There's no question. So how can our listeners develop a personal self-care plan?
Yeah. So it's really about just like little things. I think when people hear like self-care and you know, I'm going to manifest, it's like, oh gosh, now we're going to get crunchy again. And like, I didn't move to Colorado for a reason. I mean, like this is not, it's not all to be crunchy. It really starts just little and just like listening and being okay with your feelings. But again, especially dudes, like, dude, I don't do feelings. Okay, bro. Sure. Like we all do feelings, and they're all there. So first of all, just listen to them. And if they're big, like feelings aren't facts, but feelings have to go somewhere. Like they do have power. So are you talking to someone? Are you saying, ooh, I have this feeling a lot? Like number one, just listening to them. But two, I think the science is really clear. I'm so glad that Newsweek did an article on gratitude. I was like, yes. Let's have like a business article talk about gratitude. It really is about being, you know, it's cognitive reframing. So I'm gonna be grateful for what's right here because I can't control what's out there. Like I can't. So it's just about little steps. And if you've never practiced the art of gratitude, just try it. Just try it like every morning. And if you're too scared to say it out loud, if you're like, someone's gonna hear me, just in your head think. I mean, actually speaking it is better because your brain begins to hear it. But it's just like little steps, little things. I'm not saying, I can't meditate. I've tried. I cannot be sitting quiet for 5 minutes, please. So like that doesn't work for me, but for some people it does. Yeah. So try different things to see what brings you more happiness. The science is there. In my lived experience, I'm also saying it's there. Just little things.
I love it. You know, for me, the meditation apps do work. So I try to start that out every morning for 5 minutes, talking to a therapist, you know, and expressing my feelings. It's just practice with it. As an undergraduate, it was definitely not something that I was comfortable doing, just sharing my feelings. It wasn't a part of my chapter. It just wasn't something that we just all sat around and just talked about our feelings. Never happened. But after I got some practice with it, working with the therapist and other people, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is what it sounds like. And I think I've just gotten better at it over time. So it is something you can train yourself to do better.
You know, and listen, I don't think it's a lot of people's lived experience in fraternity world, but why not?
Right.
Like, we don't need any more fraternity friends. We need fraternity brothers. Right. So if we're going to call each other fraternity brothers, then do it. Like, actually do it, and actually take the time to get to know someone and listen to how they're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to be someone's fraternity friend, please go away. Please. we don't need any more of those.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So let's talk about servant leadership. You know, this book here by Robert Greenleaf is always, you know, on my shelf. But it's something that Robert Greenleaf has been talking about since the 1970s. It's been around for a while. One of my favorite books. Definitely pick it up and read it. But you've put a modern spin on this concept of servant leadership by putting the emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being of the leader first. So how is that important to being a good team leader?
Yeah. Now listen, no disrespect to a human that, I mean, I think there's much good, and I've read the book, and, you know, I ascribe to many of the principles that he talks about, but I feel like that the idea of servant leadership has become bastardized, and we think that, so that means that everyone and everything else comes before me. That means that my calendar is out there. You can meet with me whenever you want to. I'm gonna move my life to have a meeting with you. When you send me an email at 11 p.m., I'm gonna reply right then. Like, there's, and so much, like, I'm speaking like fraternity headquarters staff here. I mean, you're like, yep. And like in higher ed, like, here's my calendar, whatever. That has got to stop. Like, we as humans have to reclaim some of our personal time, because if there's nothing in my tank, I've got nothing to give you, like, at all. So if you are going to do, I don't do Calendly, and nothing, no, if I don't own trademarks, so I don't have, you know, whatever, it's Calendly. But if you're going to use it, then please put time on your calendar. Like, this is time for Michael, and it's not changing. Right. Like, this is when I go to therapy, and it's not changing. I don't care if this is the only time. Well, we can't meet then I can't help you, like, because I've got to help me first. Right. But I don't think we're definitely not modeling the way. There's no modeling the way of that at all. So if we just think that students are just going to learn it magically, from what? Because they see us running all around all the time. Yeah. So I really believe that from the top, from fraternity headquarters, from dean of students, VPSAs, we've got to say to our people, you have to make you a priority. Like, you have to matter, because if you don't matter, you're giving like second and thirds to the students. Like, right. Take care of you, and then work with your people. Gosh, our industry really needs to learn that. I mean, that is something we don't have a grip on right now. I will tell you that 100%. But all right, that's great advice. Let's talk about accountability. Peer-to-peer accountability seems like something that many chapters and councils struggle with as I travel the country. So what advice do you have for chapters or councils that can't seem to build that culture of accountability consistently and fairly? Yeah. So there's a saying in recovery called expectations are resentments in training. And I think that sort of like nails the lack of accountability, because we aren't being transparent at all about what we expect, like at all. Like the whole like challenge and support model, like basics of student development theory. We're not saying to anybody, here's what is expected of you. We're just sending them here's a PDF. So when I work with councils and chapters, I say, can we start over? Can we just go back to the beginning and just say, you know what, we're going to focus on these 4 things this semester. Like, I understand there's 55 things in the we're going to vote on these 4 things. So here are these 4 things. If you violate these 4 things, here's what's going to happen, period. And then when it happens, you actually have to do something. They're like, oh, okay, well, we'll get you next time. No. This isn't like send me money over Venmo. Like, whatever, I'll get you. No, like, you're going to hold people accountable, but you're also going to say, and then when it happens again, bye. Like it, and we just don't have, we're not doing that. There's also, I really feel like that especially IFCs are like, oh, well, you know, the conduct office took everything, and so we can't do anything. That's a cop out. Yes. Because the reason the conduct office took everything is because you weren't doing anything. Right. Most of the time, you know, sometimes that's not the case. So we also, I also work with them to say, here's how you partner with conduct, and here's what that looks like. But an IFC without a strong judicial board is a booster club.
Right.
We don't need any more booster clubs. You are the governing body of the fraternities. If we're talking about IFC, fraternities on your campus.
Right.
Be the governing body. Don't be a booster club.
Amen. I totally agree. I'd love to see that accountability or more of it in more IFCs around the country. And, I think it starts from the very beginning. Every student goes to class, they get a syllabus on day one. I've always wondered, like, why is that not happening in fraternity and sorority? Why aren't we getting that syllabus on day one to say, these are the expectations? If we just laid out the expectations from the beginning, then I think the accountability piece would be a little bit easier because A, they've read it, B, hopefully they've signed the list of expectations, and then it's very clear going forward. Like
the speed limit is 55.
Right.
Like, it is literally that, not like the speed limit during recruitment week is 45 and then during homecoming. No. The speed limit is 55.
Yeah.
Like, I've read some policies sometime like that's not a policy. That is like at best a suggestion. Like, come on.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, hey, so I know you've also been teaching others how to present on Zoom effectively, which I think is super important right now. So what tips do you have to make virtual presentations more visually appealing for the presenter?
Yeah. So I'm not going to share all my stuff. I'm just kidding. I'm not just kidding. Book the session. No, but the things that I have that I think are just really transferable, because virtual presentations aren't going away. I pray.
Right.
I pray. Because I think there is some benefit to them. But two things. One, we've got death by PowerPoint anyway, even in real life. I mean, come on, people. These PowerPoints with 75 bullets. Are you kidding right now? But over a virtual medium, like literally adult learning theory shows you that is not the way to do it, because adults, like they anchor things in their brain to something they see. So you have got to make your PowerPoint presentation more appealing. I say that content is king, but production rules the kingdom. You have to make your production more interesting, or they are just done. Like, death by PowerPoint is not going to happen. The second thing is you got to learn to love that green light. Like, you've got to. It's very weird for those of us that present for a living. So I can't even imagine what it's like for people who don't. We like looking at, like, this is your audience. Your audience is this green light. Right. Like, I'm for real. I'm in an intimate relationship with this green light. I talk to this green light more than I talk to anything else in the world right now. Yeah. So you have got to talk right here. And that's, if you don't practice it, you're never going to do it. And then lastly, practice, watch yourself present. I've now learned that when I'm thinking for a thought, I look this way, like this is my tell. I've learned, like, other tells that I do when I use filler words. If you've never watched yourself present, though, I would encourage you getting a bucket of ice cream, because it's going to be painful. But you really should watch yourself present, because you will learn a lot.
I 100% agree. Sometimes it can be a little cringeworthy just seeing yourself, but you'll learn a lot. And yeah, the ice cream is a good idea. So, all right. So speaking about great food, we love eating great food here at Fraternity Foodie. So talk to me a little bit more about some of your favorite restaurants. Where do you go in the Charlottesville area to get some good food?
Yeah, so I knew you were going to ask something about food. Friend, we're in a pandemic and we have a toddler. So the only food that we eat is takeout from the China Panda and takeout from the Mexican restaurant. Like, that's it. I mean, I try to add some salsa to some things sometimes. I mean, it's, that when you have a 2-year-old, I don't ever eat a warm meal. Like, my favorite meal is the rotisserie chicken from the Costco. Like, that is really my favorite meal right now. I'm being very honest. So you picked the wrong person. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Brutal honesty is good. I mean, I'm with you there. I mean, I don't know. I try to get like takeout, from all these different places in town. I mean, I'm not eating in restaurants. I just get it to go. And that's the best that we can do, right? I mean, that's all you can do. Right? Make the best.
Yeah. I will say that when the mini pumpkins came around for, like the little, for Halloween, not the candy corn, but the pumpkins. Yeah. Child, I did a dance in the grocery. I danced around the stand, because it was like, yes, thank you, baby Jesus, and the Gola Made diaper. Like, I get my little candy corn pumpkins again. They're so good. I have bags hidden because Bill throws them away, but like, I got bags. I'm gonna get through Christmas. I'm good.
I love it. All right, Archie. So how can our listeners get more information about your programs and then get you on their campus as a speaker?
Yeah, everything can be found at ArchieCares.com. So that's just the best place to go because the Instagram names depend on when I made them. So just go to ArchieCares.com. All my contact information is there. Do follow along on social media. I try to do, like all of us, I try to do some inspiring mental health stuff. And you get to see one of the cutest kids in the world. So, even if he is mine. So yeah, ArchieCares.com.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you to our listeners. We will see you on another episode of Fraternity Foodie. Bye for now.